All right, everybody, welcome to the Multiverse of Marvel podcast, where each week our resident Marvel guys, Aaron and Dan Gridley, I still point, but like you're here, but you're not, we'll dive into a crazy corner of the ever-expanding Marvel multiverse to dive into the crazy corner of the ever-expanding Marvel multiverse and see which topic we will be discussing this week. Welcome, guys. So this week is, if you didn't see it in the title, is Secret Wars.
Or as it is
to get into,
sometimes titled Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars.
Ooh.
You know, you got to get the whole thing in there.
Oh, yes.
now speaking on that,
this is a commodity.
Adam,
Yes.
do you know the origins of the actual, the real life origins of the Secret
Like
Wars?
why this series exists?
I do not.
Toys.
Merchandising, marketing tie-in.
I suppose I should.
It's all about that dollar.
Yes.
So,
because
going back to those days.
Grab.
Going back to those days, Kenner had the license for the DC stuff, and they were selling pretty well. And Mattel kind of figured, you know what, we want to get into this too, and the only other option was really Marvel.
He-Man's not going to last forever. We
Yeah.
gotta start diversifying a little bit.
But they needed a theme to do it around, so they decided to work with Marvel Comics and came up with this idea of doing one big story that had most of the superheroes and villains in it, and go from there.
Yeah, so that it makes sense. So I figured that would work for this because, and what was it? It was one of the Avengers movies is going to be Secret Wars.
Yeah,
they're working towards it.
So it's Secret Wars, and then what was the other one? Do you remember?
The Kang Dynasty.
Yeah, King Dynasty. Okay, yeah. So one of those two. So I figured it'd be a good time to talk about that now because I think I've read the initial one when I first started reading comics like 10 years ago. So it's kind of muddled a little bit, and the only other thing I have references, I'll probably always go back to this, is the Spider-Man animated series where like the 3-parter.
But you know what?
For the limitations
what
they were under.
That
was pretty good.
I was gonna say because as I said, I can't remember from that actual book. So it's like, how close was that really?
Beyonder was
They
in
could
it.
only use one X-Men because the original actress was still in LA, and they didn't want to have to import anything basically from Canada.
Yeah.
Actually, that's the reason why that actress left X-Men in the first place, is because she was American based and all the rest of the voice cast was Canada and based out of Canada, right? So.
Oh, really? Yeah. So that was good. Yeah, because I started watching the first episode like last night, and then I got distracted and didn't finish the other two because it's actually it's a 3-parter. I forgot. I thought it was only the one or maybe two, but it's actually a 3-parter.
Yeah.
No, I read through the miniseries itself. I've got the trade paperback from 2001.
Yeah.
Worked my way through it over the last few days at work, and for what ultimately is just a 12-issue advertisement for 4.5-inch action figures, it's a bit better than you'd think. Our artists are Mike Zeck and Bob Layton. Layton, I think his best known work is the Iron Man Demon in a Bottle storyline with David Michelinie.
Yeah, because that's where they kind of highlights his
the alcoholism and stuff. Yeah. And Zeck, I'm not sure what he was known for before this. I know I've seen him on stuff beforehand, but his early big claim to fame after Secret Wars is the Punisher miniseries.
Yeah, and then
he does the first one.
And he also did Kraven's Last Hunt too, as well.
Yeah.
Right, I think. Right?
Fearful Symmetry, as DeMatteis prefers. But yeah, that miniseries is.
Oh yes,
that one's something special. It showed up at my work a while back, and at this time, one of my coworkers. Do you remember the store, the video store in Peterborough? Have you seen?
Yes, yeah, I remember that store. That store was awesome.
Yeah, What? Yeah, yeah. One of the former owners of that place works with me at Value Village. He is getting his teenage son's getting into comic books and
Boy.
stuff, and I've passed a few things and shared some stuff. Craven's Last Hunt showed up at work, and as soon as it showed up, I pointed it out to my buddy, like, "Hey,
Pick that up.
you and your son are getting into this kind of stuff. This is something special.
Yeah, that's
This one is really good."
yeah. Because remember when when I first started collecting comics, I was always like one of the ones that like you should read, everyone should read, sort of thing. Yeah.
But before the majesty of that one, we've still got some significant technical achievement with the two of them between their various halves of the work. Like there's like in issue 2, like there's this one specific panel of Thor just reveling in this like a deadly storm raging outside the base, and he's just hanging out on top, smashing boulders as they come flying at the protective dome. And middle of the page, panel stretching across from one gutter to the other, and Thor just got this massive shit-eating grin, and he's just loving it. And it's not the sort of panel you would expect from, again, something that was made to sell action figures.
Yeah, and that just reminded me too. There's like in one of the I can't remember what issue it is. It's like the famous page where like the Hulk is holding up the entire like medal or whatever.
Yeah, that's
one of the covers too.
Fairly early on. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was. Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was a cover or not. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it is a cover, and it's also like a bunch of scenes in the actual comic.
Oh, what do you know? I opened up my drawer and went straight to the Secret War. Nice. Let me just see which cover it is here.
Yeah, and for something that was, I got to stop saying it.
Issue 4 was the one with that cover.
Yeah, the with Jim Shooter, by his decision, was the only one who could have written this. And from a certain standpoint, I can see where he's coming from. As the editor-in-chief, he's the one who best oversees what's happening in all the individual titles. So it does allow for a certain level of cohesion with what's happening to all the characters outside of Secret Wars. Like things distinctly lead into the story, and then by the end of the story, there are changes that do, for the most part, have impact. Like, Hulk's broken leg notwithstanding, I mean, that wasn't ever going to last. But the other kind of stuff that were changes were significant changes that stood the test of time for the most part. We got Venom out of it. She-Hulk showed her versatility, going from Avengers to the Fantastic Four.
Okay, but before we get any further, let's just like actually say what like actually happens in this bit before we. So it's like the Beyonder.
From Jim Shooter's standpoint, Kenner was like, okay, we want the words secret and wars involved because our testings, our focus groups say kids like those words best. Shooter never seems to have any idea where these mythical focus group kids were located or came from or what kind of demographic they were. But Kenner was quite happy to say this is what the kids want. And I think Shooter had a little bit more direct hand with kids when it came to figuring out what they actually wanted. So outside of direct mandates from Kenner, more female characters, more toyetic bases and vehicles, stuff that's relatively easy to mix into things. He was free to just, play with it, just, make sure it's a war and that it's a secret. So the initial starting point for each individual character or team is being drawn to this giant stadium-sized construct that just magically appeared in the middle of Central Park. Like Spider-Man, he's on his way to do one thing, and there's this, and he, jumps right into it. And the X-Men, and the Hulk, and every hero has some sort of, oh, here's where this story diverges, goes into Secret Wars. and each story would continue on as it were, just showing like, okay, this is the divergence point. Okay, moving on from that, something happened there, and it continues. So certain characters came through with changes that we hadn't seen what the cause of these changes were. Like, that's why there's such a dispute over what the actual first appearance of the black costume is, because it's, aside from being introduced in issue 8, it simultaneously appears in a team up issue and an Amazing Spider-Man issue.
Yeah, what was the team up issue?
Forget which specific one is it.
Probably Marvel Team Up or something like that.
Marvel Team Up was a Spider-Man title. Outside of a few random occurrences, it was always Spider-Man teaming up with someone else. Looks like 141 of Team Up, or that's either the outgoing part.
And then the Amazing Spider-Man was like what, 298 or is it 299?
No, it's earlier than that.
Oh, that's right. That's okay. That's when Venom shows up.
240 something.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was thinking Venom himself.
But
anyway, getting back to the story.
Yeah. So the stadium thing, they all end up in it and suddenly find themselves in this, like the stadium is now in the middle of a void in space. No stars, no nothing. It's just nothing. And we've got suddenly like this crack appears in the nothing and causes all kinds of matter to just suddenly coalesce into a planet. And it's a patchwork planet with chunks just clearly taken from other places. And the few characters that are watching this, because at the same time that we got the heroes, we've also got a group of villains. And like the big brains like Doom, Dr. Octopus, Reed Richards, like these guys are all like, we're witnessing things that should not be possible. There's the usual character shenanigans because you got to have some action going on. And
you got to have shenanigans.
Yeah. But there's some interesting divisions with how the Beyonder separates what he decides are good guys and what he decides are bad guys.
One of the first times you ever have Magneto flat out said is a good guy. He's on their team until the Avengers start questioning that fact that he's on their team.
Yeah, like we'd seen glimpses of this possibility with Magneto. Like, I mean, we had
issue 150 where you had where we finally see kind of his background.
They do directly reference 150 with it. God Loves Man Kills had been published, but its status for being in or out of continuity was really indeterminate for a long time.
Just because you're a bad guy doesn't mean you're a bad guy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Magneto does some particularly noble things in God Loves Man Kills. And that, if the actual story isn't quite acknowledged by this point, those character traits definitely are. Magneto is sided with the good guys because the things he fights for are not selfish, greedy things. He fights for an ideal. He fights for others. So as far as the Beyonder is concerned, okay, that puts him on that side of the chessboard. But on the other side of the chessboard, he's got like Galactus. And that changes things. Like the fact that he can just throw Galactus in there. Yeah, Galactus was totally on the bad guys. Well, he was put on the bad guy's side of the chessboard.
Oh, okay.
He didn't stay. Like as soon as the Beyonder made his declaration, slay your enemies and I will grant you your wishes and stuff, Galactus is just like, you've got energy to permanently end my hunger. Do it now or we got problems. And he attacks the Beyonder and gets smacked down hard for it. And of course, Doom being Doom, is that an opportunity I see? He, goes for it. He follows Galactus. Oh yeah, no, he's just like right there in Galactus's wake. Like, okay, I got to get whatever I can out of this. And he at least is able to get like, readings and stuff off of the Beyonder, It's one of the things about Doom is regardless of anything he's doing, he and his armor's scanning systems are always paying attention to everything that's happening around him. In fact, that's one of the more comedic lines in it. Claw gets reintroduced into the story, having been previously thought to be dead, and he's pretty insane by this point. So he's got some good commentary going on. And at one point, while listening to Doom, here it is. Doom, ranting and raving, Claw, mad master of sound, being of living sound energy, whom I found in Galactus's home. You are the one I need. Wah, tra la 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 la. You narrate your life as you go along, don't you? Are you being taped? Why, yes. Every utterance of Doom must be recorded for posterity. It's a line played for laughs, and it does get a good laugh, but it also, Doom is paying attention at all times. He's in the Doctor Strange team up graphic novel. He is out of all the sorcerers, he is the one with the least amount of knowledge and skill. He is a novice compared to everybody else, but his scanning systems in his armor put him at least on their level, because he's able to read their spells, see the cause and effect of them, see the gestures and manipulations of energy that they're doing. And Strange is watching, and he's like, Doom is okay. I can see how mechanically he's doing this, but he's pulling off spells that he shouldn't know. Okay, so Doom, he's, even though what the Beyonder is so far beyond what Doom is capable of comprehending, he's still going to get that glimpse. So
that does expand much later.
Oh yeah, he's left chasing that high throughout.
Well, no, that's not even what I'm talking about, right? We have to get to the Secret Wars before I get into that part. We got a bunch of other things to get through first.
Yeah. So Beyonder having made his declaration, and Galactus being like, I don't agree with that, and then being, slapped down like a belligerent toddler, they land on the Battleworld, where quickly the heroes start to point fingers at Magneto, murderer, bad guy, terrorist, when the X-Men point out, okay, we know this guy, and he's not gonna do what you guys think he's gonna do. But it's the earliest inclinations of one of the things that kind of bothered me, narratively speaking, throughout it, because Shooter is juggling so many balls with all these characters. He can't necessarily keep up on how accurate characters may be represented. He uses Wolverine as the main voice for the X-Men, outside of Cyclops, butting heads with Xavier over who's going to be field leader, and then Storm being like, hey, I'm leader of the X-Men, and that usual three-way nonsense. It's Wolverine typically delivering the exposition and the mutant rhetoric and all that crap, which feels really out of character for Wolverine first and foremost. But when you realize that this series is following up on Wolverine's previous developments in his own issues of his limited series and the immediate issues of X-Men that follow that, it really shows that
it's like prime Wolverine time.
That Shooter couldn't keep all of these balls in the air properly. There's a few drops here and there, but he towards the end, I notice he does start to get a little bit better grasp on Wolverine, but there's a fair bit of artificial tension. What would you say to that, Dan, being the X-Men expert?
I felt that Jim should have probably talked to Chris Claremont a lot more about the X-Men and had them maybe help co-write some of their scenes.
Dan, didn't need to say so much there. You could have just ended it as Jim Shooter needed to talk to Chris Claremont more.
Yeah. Because when we were talking about it earlier, you mentioned the Wolverine thing. I pointed out the Rogue thing. Rogue is essentially a non-character. She's there. She's involved in everything. She has dialogue here and there, but she's essentially a non-character because at this point, excuse me, she was such a new character that Jim didn't know what Chris was going to do with him and didn't really know what to do with her at all. So she's just there.
Yeah, it was her Avengers appearances, and then
the couple issues of Dazzler, and then a couple issues of X-Men.
The 2 issues of X-Men that follow up the Wolverine miniseries are where Wolverine at first rereading that in response to finishing Secret Wars, I get to the part where, he threatens to cut out Rogue's heart because, this is the first time he's seen her as part of the X-Men. And as far as he's concerned, she's still the one that, crippled one of his best friends. So there's really none of that. Like they acknowledge that Rogue, if this had happened like, maybe 6 months earlier, she could have just as easily have been on the villain side. And there's some early, wishy-washiness over like, am I really accepted as part of the X-Men? Is this my chance to get away and, get back to other stuff? It's kind of needless.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really add to any of her character development in X-Men, and it doesn't really draw from anything more significant than Avengers Annual 10.
Avengers 10, that sounds what is
That's the Carol Danvers
okay
issue. Yeah. The significant issue. We might have to talk about that one at some point. But yeah, going through it for the first chunk of it, like there's the usual like bickering villains, like who should be leader? I should be leader. Like, well, no, Doom is standing right here. We should follow Doom. Kang is the only one who really opposes this. Mostly
Kang's
because
also one of the only ones who could, stand against Doctor Doom. Not thinking that he can, but he's the only one out of that group who had a chance.
Yeah, Ultron would possibly, but he's already been snuffed out like a candle, as stated in the book by Galactus. Ultron goes up and threatens Galactus, and Galactus just like draws all of the energy out of Ultron, leaves him a lifeless husk. He's just scrap metal at that point. So it's really just like, out of all the villains, Octopus is the smartest out of the base level guys. He's the only one who knows how to actually think. And then there's Doom and Kang. These are the only two real conqueror types. Everybody else are low level guys or henchman types. Kang, being the warlord, just states his opposition to Doom. And like after there's a few fights and stuff early on, but when it comes down to it, Kang doesn't want to listen to Doom, and Doom just vaporizes him. And it doesn't even turn out later, like say when they think they've killed Thor and he just used a flash of lightning to escape. Nope, Kang is vaporized. He is actually dead at this point, which is kind of ignoble when you consider that, this is a guy who could potentially have been a future version of Doom, or possibly a descendant of Doom, or maybe an ancestor of Doom. They themselves don't really know. They just know that there's some sort of familial connection between them. And you'd think with that, plus his like year 3000 technology, that it would give him some kind of advantage over Doom. No, Doom is Doom.
Though we should probably try to wrap up on the first one here because we still have a bunch of other.
I'm going through here. They introduce a couple new characters with Titania and Volcana. Titania we've seen in the She-Hulk TV series. Bit of a difference between the two characters, but I can also kind of see where there might be similarities. Like before she got mutated by Doom, who just wanted more hench people, she was like a really scrawny, small woman who, from her dialogue, is implied that she was really put upon and picked on and bullied and abused. And now she doesn't want anybody to throw her around. And they don't ever really get into what Volcana's story is, other than that she's Titania's friend. She's
a friend.
Just fat friend,
baby, you.
And I don't mean to sound insensitive when I say that. Like other characters call her fat without outright calling her fat, and she's curvy. She's drawn to be curvy. So what? Like if they're trying to make her look like an unattractive fat person, they're not trying at all. If like I don't really see why they need to keep commenting on her body type throughout it. Like, she's not discernibly drawn any different than the other spandex characters. Like, this isn't like Love and Rockets. This isn't like reading a Ted McKeever book. These are still superheroes. Even an unideal body type is still an ideal body type in the world of Marvel superheroes and DC superheroes, I'm pretty sure too. But they're perfectly serviceable once they get their superpowers. Pretty much right away, Titania tries to pick on Absorbing Man, and he just brushes her off. Like, you want to fight? Save it for the other guys that we got to fight. I'm going to take it easy. I got no beef with you. And over the course of it, they start a relationship. And strangely enough, ever since then, they've been a pretty consistent couple. I think they might even be married by this point.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure at this point they're married.
Yeah, like they're pretty devoted to each other as a couple, even through their occasional disagreements.
Anya and Absorbing Man.
Old Thor villain. You're not familiar with that guy?
I thought he was more of a Hulk villain.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
No, dude, he's Asgardian.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, like, what I'm saying is the fact that he showed up in Hulk comics. He was Hulk's bad guy.
I guess, but
and then they kind of changed him for the fucking Hulk, the Ang Lee Hulk movie, and then he was in Agents of Shield as well. But I know, like, the Hulk movie is fucking trash, but
I still haven't seen that one.
You ever saw the Ang Lee one?
Yeah, like,
I still haven't seen it.
And
it's not like Jonah Hex, where like I'm deliberately not ever watching it.
Oh, fucking damn!
It's just there's the opportunity to see it has never actually come up for me.
Like, I know everyone trashes it, but I will say, like, even though I view it, I can see that it's a bad movie. I do actually like that movie.
I enjoyed it.
I watched plenty of bad movies.
I enjoyed it. I felt that Ang Lee was going a bit more artsy with it than he needed to, but other than that, I thought it was great.
Yeah, I will say that I do it like
for a trailblazing Marvel movie. Like, it doesn't, like, honestly, it sounds like it's better than Blade Trinity. I watched that one.
Yeah. I mean, though, to finish up on the first Secret War, there's not really much else to go on apart from telling more about the story specifically. But everyone has a battle. They defeat the Beyonder, and then they go home.
Well, there's a couple other things. There's that healer chick and how that completely derails the Colossus Kitty relationship that had been.
But again, that's not really important for us to get into here because it doesn't really tie into characters we've talked about yet.
You really want to cover all the other Secret Wars?
Well, no, we kind of have to glaze over two of the other ones, but we have to talk about the fourth one because I guarantee you, when it comes down to the movie, the fourth one is what it's going to be based on.
I suppose so.
Guarantee it.
So you want to take the lead for Secret Wars 2? Because that was where
I'll skip through it because you know what? It's convoluted, confusing, and even the order of reading it is messed up. Basically, the gist of the story is that the Beyonder came to Earth to experience being a human.
Yeah.
And how he goes off and jumps into almost every comic to spend a little bit of time with everyone to learn a little bit more about everything. And I mean, honestly, you try to buy this series and it is such a hard one to get all of because it's all over the place.
It sprawls. Oh my God, does it sprawl? Yeah, the big takeaway from Secret Wars 1 was that the Beyonder did all this because he didn't understand desire. So, well, he didn't understand it by watching human people, these little things try to get their own desires. So now he's on Earth trying to figure out what his desires are. Teach me these things, desire. I seem to recall one of the things that he has to learn is how to use the bathroom. And
yep, that was one of them.
I believe that is poor Peter Parker that has to teach him that.
Actually, I don't know if it was Peter. That may have been when he first became human. He was hanging out with some criminals. He didn't quite know they were criminals, and I think they were the ones who had to teach him that kind of stuff.
I know somebody. I wish I had it on hand, but somebody had to potty train the Beyonder.
I'm fairly certain it's in one of the issues I have. I have all the main Secret Wars issues, and then I've got a bunch of the tie-ins because
it's not Madam Web.
Now that I think about it, I feel like there's other cosmic mystic entities in the Marvel comics that others have had to potty train.
Probably.
Like
That's a Marvel
I
thing.
really feel like there's at least one other scene trying to claw its way to the forefront of my consciousness. Oh well, I'll let it
Yeah. But basically, the
flush
second,
away.
in the end, the second Secret Wars, the only really big thing that came out of that was that's where Boom Boom was first introduced.
Oh yeah,
That's basically it. Because I mean,
she was a
everything
fun
about it kind
character.
of got swept under the rug shortly afterwards. Because when it came out, fans apparently weren't that big of a fan of it, and I can understand why. I mean, it went from July to December, or sorry, no, sorry, it went from
July
July to
85
March.
to March
Yeah,
86 with a few follow-up issues later. Like
yeah. But I
there's
mean, like, and it, for instance, I collect
Quasar
X
issue
Men.
4 years
Issue
later.
196, that's part of the crossover. But the next issue that's part of the crossover is issue 202. So I mean, it's not
Yeah,
like these things
202
jump
and then
straight to straight.
203,
Yeah.
those two right after one another. But yeah, 196 way back in 85.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't seem so much as a cohesive crossover as just this ultra powerful, like Jerry curled, big, wide shouldered white man in a pristine, wonderful ice cream suit, just meandering his way across title after title after title.
Yep. Causing problems here and there,
Not understanding
But
that he's causing problems, acting all indignant when, like, he's told, this is causing problems. I don't understand why this is causing problems. Okay, I'll fix these problems here, but now I'm going to go over here and cause problems for this person to try to learn what went wrong with my previous problems that I caused.
But I need to say, so
What
okay,
kind
like I
of
said, we'll skip past much of the second Secret War because we will, there's
It's
just so
not like the
convoluted.
Beyonder himself has ended up as a fixed character in the Marvel
And they've
universe.
screwed with him too. I'll talk about that in a moment here. There was a third Secret Wars that was in Fantastic Four in the 1980s, but I've never read that one. I don't know anything about it, so I really can't talk about that one.
I wish we had more access to that old Fantastic Four
Yeah,
stuff.
I know.
I've only ever found random issues.
Then after that, the next sort of secret one we have is just known as Secret War. And this one doesn't tie into
Can
the
we
rest of the
quickly
Secret War
mention
stuff.
Beyond? Wait,
Yes, we can mention Beyond, but I'm pretty sure
because
Beyond came after this.
okay,
Anyway, Secret War itself was just a Bendis story that basically kind of set up some of the stuff he was doing in Avengers coming up. It doesn't really end up tying a lot into anything else apart from what was going on in the actual Marvel universe at the time.
I can.
Okay,
Okay,
basically,
there
the whole
it
thing
is.
was where Nick Fury, at the end of it, they find out Nick Fury is hiding for some reason, and this all leads up eventually to the Secret Invasion. But Secret War was where they first find out that Nick Fury is basically taken off and is planning something.
Nobody cared at the time except for the fact that it was illustrated by Gabriel Dell'Otto. That's the only reason that I have the trade, is that the artwork is there's not much else from Marvel in general that looks like this in their mainstream titles. Like this was an event book, and Dell'Otto almost looks like he came out of something like heavy metal.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a distinct mix of European and almost Renaissance art kind of mixed together with the natural comic book sensibilities. Like it's easy comparisons a layman would make would be to, like, ooh, Alex Ross, but that's just on the simple fact that they're fully painted.
I find Dell'Otto's a bit more dynamic than
yeah.
Ross.
Oh yeah.
Ross's art has a tendency to be a bit more static, a lot more posed and whatnot.
He's very much working from photo references, and doesn't, compared to say Dan Brereton, doesn't seem to as easily incorporate those photo references into the scenes he's creating with his paintings.
But anyway, since the Secret War isn't too important, now we can move on to Beyond, which actually does matter when it comes to the Secret War stuff.
Yeah, that one's it starts off like just as like a complete rehash of the original Secret Wars, like almost as if it's supposed to be like a direct sequel. One of my favorite bits in it, where the hell is that trade? There it is. One of my favorite bits is, just like in the original series, the Beyonder, or allegedly the Beyonder, makes his declaration, slay your enemies and I will grant your wishes. And with the particular grouping that we have, the one of them, the Mac Gargan as Venom, just looks around and is like, well, by my reckoning, I only have one enemy here, and sticks his tail right through Spider-Man's chest. That was a shock moment that kind of one-upped any of the shock moments that were in Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. But Beyond didn't have to sell action figures to little kids. Don't worry, those little kids. Spider-Man didn't actually get stabbed through the chest. It was a space phantom. Read old Avengers. No, wait, Avengers or Fantastic Four? Yeah, Dan, do you remember if it was Avengers or Fantastic Four?
I don't know either way.
Sorry, I hit mute. I didn't realize I had.
We lost Dan.
Yeah, sorry, Don here.
But yeah, no, Beyond was a fun little diversion. I don't think the Beyonder was the real Beyonder. It's been
No, it wasn't it like the
I'm skimming through it.
what was his name? The strange, not the stranger. No.
Oh yeah, it was a Watcher.
Yeah.
No, not is he?
No, was that the
he's
Phantom Stranger?
No, just the Stranger.
Okay,
He's
yeah,
one
the
of the Elders of the Universe.
Yeah.
So not the Elders of the Universe. He's one of the primal forces of creation in the universe, like the way Galactus is. He's not on the same level as any of them. Like he is definitely below the Beyonders level, but he's at least strong enough to pretend to be the Beyonder. Oh right, that was another good spot here. After Venom stabs Spider-Man, Medusa goes to town on him. Medusa can whip her hair at supersonic speeds.
Is it back and forth?
There, he cannot, like, her hair
She hits him with sonic booms.
Yeah, her hair can basically do most anything that Matt Gargan can do with the symbiote. Like, he's not as experienced as Venom at being Venom as Eddie Brock was. But yeah, like Dan says, she just starts hitting him with rapid fire sonic booms all over him. Like, she just leaves.
Wait, did you say like Matt Gargan, like the Scorpion?
Yeah, the Scorpion has the Venom symbiote for a while in the Marvel comics.
What?
Oh yeah, no, like
he doesn't anymore, but he did for a while.
The Venom that was with the Thunderbolts, that was Matt Gargan. That was Scorpion.
From what I remember, somehow Eddie and the symbiote got separated, and then there was some sort of like auction or something.
Yeah.
And Mac won the auction and got the symbiote, so he started wearing it and became Venom.
Eddie was dying of cancer, so he was trying to wrap up his affairs and put everything in order. And if I remember correctly, he needed money to make sure certain loved ones were taken care of. So the only thing he had worth selling was the symbiote. And somehow Mac Gargan is the one who won the auction.
How weird.
But yeah, like she just started, like she's ready to kill him. And the others, of course, no, we don't kill. We're heroes. I'm Attilan royalty. I'm not a hero like you guys are. I'm going to execute him as a royal crime. Spider-Man was a royal friend. So this is justice. But yeah, like I said, wasn't Spider-Man, was a space phantom. Creepy, weird little aliens. I'm pretty sure from early in Fantastic Four, or not Fantastic Four. I'm mixing that up with Skrulls. They're pretty sure Avengers. But if I remember correctly, Beyond reintroduced Deathlock to Marvel.
Yeah.
Or at least the 90s Deathlock. You know, they use whichever Deathlock they want to as it suits them. But it doesn't, I don't think I've seen Beyond mentioned anywhere in ages. I bet it's been out of print for years.
Probably, which is a shame.
It's fun. It was
any
fun
Dwayne McDuffie story should still be in print.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Any Dwayne McDuffie stories.
Oh yeah, it's also one of the few stories that had the Hood being a hero before he decided, screw it.
Yep.
I'm taking over for the Kingpin.
But it was one of his earlier appearances.
Yeah, like it's like his mini series that introduces him, then this, and then it's like the new Avengers stuff.
And then, so after Beyond, the next actual Secret Wars, and this is the one that I think is actually the movie's going to be based around.
What, not the Deadpool Secret Wars?
What?
Not the Deadpool Secret Wars?
We'll probably get
that might happen.
That. Yeah,
that might.
So what we ended up with, what I think is going to be based on, is the 2015 Secret Wars, and this was the big crossover of the year at the time. Getting built up with basically all the different universes, all the different dimensions or different realities. They were colliding with each other, having these incursions where two realities would kind of start to form, and then one of them would get destroyed, one would survive, and this kept going on until there was only 2 universes left: the Ultimate Universe and the 616. And then they both got destroyed. Suddenly everybody woke up on Battleworld, which was a big giant world made up of all sorts of different realities of the Marvel Universe.
It was basically a recreation of the original Battleworld, but on a multiversal level.
So, you'd have like a chunk that would be like Days of the Future's Past, but then there'd be another chunk that would be like Civil War, and then there'd be like another chunk that would be like Marvel Zombies.
But it went further than that as well. Like there was one chunk that was basically like
I've got the map right up here on my
if
shelf.
you took like that 70s movie Rollerball and made it all about Spirits of Vengeance. And
So
like
there was
that was one pocket little district on
there was
Battleworld.
more than 40 different sections of this. And what had happened was that, well, everything was getting destroyed by the Beyonders. Doom, Doctor Strange, and Molecule Man went off, found the Beyonders, and Doom took the power of them. And they went off and they 3 of them reformed everything and recreated everything that way.
It should be pointed out these are the revelations given to the reader at the conclusion.
Yes, at the
of
conclusion.
Secret Wars.
They let this forms.
They let this ride for a while.
Yeah, everything gets reformed. All we know is that Doom is now the God Emperor and has infinite power.
And nobody seems to be really opposing him. It's not like there's a whole resistance that's going on. Like, no, this is just the world as it exists.
We're like,
it's
yeah,
like Age of Apocalypse was.
We're like, this tracks. Yeah.
Yep. But then two arc ships that survived the last incursion arrive. One full of a bunch of heroes like Mr. Fantastic and Cyclops with the Phoenix powers and Captain Marvel, and another one that's got Thanos and Namor, and then a bunch of Thanos' villains and stuff with them, and also Miles Morales, but they didn't know that. So they all arrive here and find this world all messed up and start to try to figure out what's going on, which ends up leading to all sorts of stuff. And in the end, they end up fixing everything and putting the Marvel Universe back together. But that was the one that this one, which at the time people were complaining about it, but frankly, as far as it goes for a Marvel story, to me, it kind of just makes sense. It's something like this could happen at some point. And there were some great moments with Doom.
The event
and some great
itself,
moments with the two characters.
The event itself. You're absolutely right. It's everything surrounding it that muddles it. There are so many tie-in miniseries that don't actually tie into the plot or story. It's just things that have happened on this battle world. And part of it viciously praise. Well, it's not just that. Like, it viciously preys on the nostalgia factor of so many old titles. Like, the number of times that I can imagine readers being familiar with older titles, seeing these newer ones and like, oh, I know that. Like Inferno. There was an Inferno title for this that was basically the old X-Men crossover, but here's a district that's the way things are. And if you were thinking that this was something that had to do with the actual Inferno event from back in the 80s, you'd be disappointed.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but most of what I ended up reading disappointed me. The Howard the Duck got a one shot, which was great. Didn't overstay its welcome. It was Howard the human, and he was trapped in a district where he was the only human and everybody else were anthropomorphic animal creatures. It didn't overstay its welcome. I got the Spirits of Vengeance one, like I said.
Ghost Racers was cool.
It was fine. Like
I really liked Star-Lord and Kitty Pryde.
It didn't hold any impact, but it was fine. But Mrs. Deadpool and the Howling Commandos, that one, that confused me. That is not what I thought, what I expected from Deadpool's wife.
Oh yeah, there's that one there. Yeah. Oh, with her. Yeah.
Yeah. I was under the assumption that Deadpool had still had a legally binding marriage to Satana Hellstrom, not some new made up Shikla Queen of the Demons, whatever the hell she was.
I don't read enough Deadpool to actually know the full details of that. I wasn't really kind of too aware of her as a character until really the toy came out.
I think that's why I started to trail off of Deadpool.
Yeah, no, like I went from the team up issue where like, oh, he's technically married to Satana now. Cool, that'll fuck with him. And then I find this, some woman who opposes Dracula. I don't know. Anyways, it's on my sell pile. Ultimately the story, the main story for Secret Wars, that's what led to us getting Fantastic Four back, isn't it?
Actually, no, it's what that led to them leaving for a while. This was the
Right.
start of all them
right.
leaving and everything.
Yeah, they
Uh,
disappeared because they didn't want to publish them anymore.
Yeah.
Want to support anything that any non-Marvel studio was doing.
So when it ended, the Fantastic Four, Reed and Sue took the kids and the rest of the Freedom Foundation, and they went off into existence because Franklin was recreating the
Too
multiverse.
powerful.
The Thing joined the Guardians of the Galaxy, and
that's kind of significant considering that in the first Secret Wars he decides to stay behind on Battleworld and just
and he was a good suit for them. He didn't stick around for too long, but I liked him being on there. And Johnny Storm joined the Avengers. He was part of the Unity Squad, the Uncanny Avengers. And again, I liked the Uncanny Avengers. It was a pretty good run.
Yeah, by
all
that
the
point,
Uncanny Avengers
he would have
pretty good.
earned his place in the Avengers. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But,
the Guardians of the Galaxies had rock and paper, just they needed scissors.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, Gamora scissors, so you're all good.
How dare you ignore the Drax standing in the room?
He's
always those knives.
Actually, here's a great Drax thing. Okay, so
he was standing still. I didn't see him.
Do you know what Drax one secret amazing skill that he has, Adam?
I do not.
Jazz saxophonist.
Oh, professional!
That was what he was.
Professional jazz saxophonist.
Because in the comics, Drax was a human, but he was a professional jazz saxophonist. And in fact, in the Secret Wars, the Kitty Pryde, the Star-Lord and Kitty Pryde crossover, that's one of the big plot points is him being a jazz musician in one of the districts.
He and Blade need to start a band and see who else they can get to join. You got Drax on the sax. You got Blade. Pretty sure he plays trumpet.
Yeah, I was thinking trumpet too, actually. Weirdly enough.
No, like Blade is a jazz musician. He grew up in that era, like that. Like he's that old that his youth was in the early days of like jazz and blues and all that.
Yeah, I just that was my first instrument that I thought he'd have was the trumpet. Yeah, so
But anyway, the more modern one, I think, will probably likely be what the movie's going to be about because we're dealing with Kang and time travel. They're going to want to pull different realities and things together. So it seems to me that that's more likely where they'd go as opposed to doing a straight up Secret Wars. Because I mean, at this point, what's the big deal with it at that point? Like we've already had all the superheroes all cross over like that. Now we need to see all the different realities crossing over, right?
Yeah, it'd just be like the way of
some
bringing
of the
in
panels and pages in the books. Man, I like watching a planet get assembled up on the big screen.
But I mean, they can still do that with this as well, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like that's like.
So do you think this is how the movies bring in like the Fantastic Four and mutants, or they brought in
by that point?
We'll have it in before that.
Well, yeah, because I guess like the mutants have been technically
have been getting pulled in one by one.
Have been officially name dropped now. Yeah, I think that mutants have been officially been said. Yeah, so.
Because I'm pretty sure, I've been hearing again rumors that Rogue could possibly be in the new Captain Marvel movie, right? But I mean,
because that would make sense for her to get her powers. Yeah,
but at the same time, they may have other stories going on that it might be too much to have a character in there. And we've also heard rumors like this, like Storm was going to be in Black Panther, which never happened. I mean,
I
heard that was something that was in the running before Chadwick.
But they also did make it clear that Namor was a mutant, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Miss Marvel as well, because I mean, in the comics, Miss Marvel was supposed to be a mutant, but because she came out during the whole, we don't use mutants or Fantastic Four, that they made her be an Inhuman because they were trying to push the Inhumans, which went over so well.
Yes, everybody just loves the Inhumans. They're our favorites.
It's his best show ever.
Yeah.
Oh, no, just as a franchise in general.
It
never lasts.
No,
they can get good miniseries out of it. It's like Eternals. You can get good miniseries from good creative teams, but if you try to push the envelope and make it into an ongoing series or anything, you're just going to lose the readers.
Yeah.
All right. So, and then so I think that covers most of it. I think.
Yeah. So there was. I scrolled down to the Battleworld listing, all the different things. We had Age of Ultron versus Marvel Zombies.
I've got the map right in front of me because I still have that big laminated map thing they were handing out at the
I
comic
think
store.
I still got that too.
So like when you open it up, it shows you the first issues of like all the crossover stuff they had, as well as the final issues of stuff that was crossing into it, like Magneto and Miss Marvel and
many
Ultimate End.
crossovers.
Red Skull had a mini series, Master of Kung Fu. Oh right, we had the Thor Corp in this one.
Yeah, the Thor Corp, like the cops that kind of kept everybody in line across the entire
They were
battle
basically
world.
like the FBI in that they were the ones that could cross borders and go anywhere on the battle world. Well, almost anywhere.
This is also when they started using Old Man Logan, and after this, he was ended up being in the Marvel Universe. What else we got here? There was 2099. There was doing Korvac. There's Extinction
Infinity
Agenda,
Gauntlet,
Weird World,
MODOK. All right,
E
Planet
for
Hulk,
Extinction.
2099.
Yeah.
Spider Island, Spider Verse. They brought back Weird World for it.
Yep.
Weird
Like,
World.
Is
Is that Mojo?
No. Mojo is Mojo World.
Oh, okay.
Weird World was its own thing. I'm pretty sure it's the series that Rocket Raccoon originally first appeared in.
That's the thing. Do you think you ever see like Mojo on screen?
I think it's a possibility. I mean,
Be a while.
they've already considering some of the stuff they did in She-Hulk. I wouldn't put it past some. They might do some pretty goofy things over in some Disney Plus stuff, right? And I mean, they've already said that when it comes to them introducing X-Men, they want to do a bunch of Disney Plus specials about individual characters that you can introduce to them.
Oh, Dan.
And then,
Dan. X Babies.
They could totally
A Disney
X
X Babies special.
Oh, 100%
Oh
they could do
man,
that.
I'd like to see that. I really would.
So many people would bitch and complain, but I'd be down for that. Because then we get Mojo.
Jojo.
Yeah. Man, I want that Mojo.
I don't
figure
know.
they
I think
got at
Mojo
EB Games.
Jojo would be able to thwart the Marvel Mojo. No, the Mojo Jojo has a sense of determination that. Oh, actually, no. I think he'd probably just get his own TV show from the Marvel Mojo.
The Marvel
solve
Mojo
everybody's problems.
tried sneaking around New York wearing a trench coat and a hat, pretending to be human because he fell in love with some random human woman.
As you
And
do.
he actually thought he was properly disguising himself.
One of my favorite things about Mojo is at one point he was deposed by his good guy rebel version, Mojo 2, the sequel.
Yeah.
That's his name. It's like a pimp named Slickback. You got to say the whole thing. Mojo 2, the sequel.
I also love how, it gets to the point where whenever Mojo would come up, the fans would just start complaining about who's always the same character doing the same things over and over again.
That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. He's a producer. He doesn't
he's
have
a
an original
corporate
idea.
executive. That's not what he does. Creativity is not part of his skill set.
I mean, he
Imagination
thinks he's
is not
creative.
something he understands.
Thinks he's creative, but no.
How many times does Major Domo make some sort of brilliant suggestion that is immediately Mojo's idea?
Oh, always. Spiral too.
Yeah, Spiral. She's one I definitely would want to see on the big screen.
Again, she was one of those ones that I heard that again turned out not to be true, but in Shang-Chi that apparently that tournament scene was supposed to be bigger, and she was one of the ones that potentially could have shown up. Because I mean, how awesome would it have been to see a 6-armed woman fighting somebody with all those swords?
Yeah.
And her the weird dancing she does and her powers, she's someone that should look so awesome on the big screen. But then again, I'm going to say that about most X-Men characters because I'm such an X-Men fan.
And now that we're starting to see ones that more accurately reflect the character designs we got in the comics.
Yeah,
I think sometimes they do go a little bit too over the top with movieizing.
I totally agree with your Namor thing that, I mean, the guy's skin is supposed to be so super dense that he really shouldn't have piercings.
Tattoos and piercings on a character like Namor just don't seem right to me. Who else is strong enough to be able to
it could be
artistically pierce his skin?
It could be vibranium
Himself?
ink.
The
scenario.
Hulk? That's a Wakandan thing. That is already claimed by Wakanda. Dan, you tell him. That's Wakanda.
Your Wakanda.
Vibranium tattoos are a wholly owned and operated subsidiary of Wakanda and whatever corporate entity they consider
See, now
themselves.
that right there, what you're talking about is another thing. Black Panther 2, we should have seen Nesno,
Oh, that would be great.
you know? Like just this one
Just in
kid.
the background, just
Yep.
some kid with a few like painted on vibranium armbands.
Well, you'd have to have them all over his body, I think.
No,
right,
no,
just
no.
to make
As
it look
as a
accurate.
little kid, no,
No,
just,
even as a little kid, have them all accurate, have them covered because they knew what was coming.
that
Now,
sucks
just
if
so
he
you
had
don't know,
it to
just so
that
you probably don't know who
degree,
this is.
like right from the start.
Adam
That
Nesno is a character. He's
sucks.
one of the X-Men. His name's Gentle. He is a mutant who has super strength, but his powers are so out of control that basically, like the Black Panther and all the scientists made vibranium tattoos to cover his body that help contain his powers.
They're basically trying to prevent what happened to Strong Guy from happening to Nesno.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
But at
Like,
the same time,
they don't
Nesno,
want him
who's
permanently like bodily dysmorphed and to be like, you know, in pain all
Yeah.
the time.
Nesno normally is
anyways.
pretty skinny looking. He's pretty like Zen, you know, tries to keep a level head, usually meditating and whatnot. But when he uses his powers, he goes like total strong guy. And yeah,
it's like Master
they all get
Roshi
pretty worried when he
going
uses his
all
powers
bulked up
because
to
all
take
of his
out a
friends know that, yeah, anytime he uses his powers, that could be the last time, you know?
Yeah.
Never stops him though.
It never does.
Yeah.
All right, so is that I think that covers everything for Secret Wars, I think.
Yeah. That's
All
pretty
right.
much our nutshell on
Everything we
Secret
felt
Wars.
like covering, yeah.
All right, so yeah, so like until the Secret Wars movies comes out, people, you should check out Disney Plus and check out the 3-part Spider-Man thing. I think it's like season 3, 4 or 5.
It's towards the end of the run.
Yeah, I think
But you know what? Well, just check
watch
it all,
the whole thing.
Spider-Man. It's such a great cartoon.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. As I said, like there's a reason why I always go back to it because that was my first introduction to Spider-Man, and then I think with this 3-parter was like probably like the bigger Marvel thing because I
That's
think
kind of funny because
I
like with
think-
Aaron and I, our first introduction was the original cartoon. Our dad had us watching that back
The
when
old 67 one.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
I think I
yeah.
kind of knew of it, but like there's probably like soon before this or whatever that are. I
Yeah,
think
no,
I was
we
like,
watched
were that was one of our
that was
earlier
done on a
shows we
regular
watched,
basis
and
when we could.
I remember being pretty hyped when because I mean we were already watching the X-Men cartoon and fucking loving the X-Men cartoon, and then you know Fox started doing Spider-Man. Well, bring it on.
then they did the crossover with
which was again like
it's pretty good.
what else do you get things like that as a kid with cartoons crossing over like that? You know, I mean,
reading through these books, those cartoon voices are the ones I hear.
Yeah.
when I read the dialogue.
100%.
Hey Bub, yeah, like
Like
he's always
reading Claremont and Miller's Wolverine.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
hearing
and
Wolverine
that-
from the cartoon.
and that Beast too, definitely.
George Buza, yeah.
Yeah.
No, nobody will do the Magneto voice like David Hamlin.
No, yeah,
I know.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
so
yeah,
worried about who they're getting to replace him.
Like
Yeah,
I'm
my
sure
favorite
we'll get
Magneto.
other iconic, brilliantly voiced Magnetos, but nobody will just have that perfect mix of what it took to be the 90s cartoon Magneto. Like,
Yeah.
it was part of what made me such a fan of Magneto was that
Yeah.
portrayal.
Yeah. fair enough.
and our theme song is kind of made this sound like that theme song too. So
It's
so
such an iconic theme song.
it is. It's the best.
I can't wait to start hearing it again coming up in this fall.
Yeah. Oh, that's when it's coming out. It's like
Yep,
this.
it's supposed to be
than a
coming
year
out
away.
like this fall.
All right.
Damn.
All right. Well, in that case, I think we should probably wrap this up because we're going to probably talk about reminiscing about other stuff. But
Yep, we could.
thank you everyone for joining us this week, and join us whenever I decide to do in the next episode. And we'll probably throw up like on our Instagram or Twitter at the Marvel Pod, or at Twitter as the Marvel Pod, or Instagram at the Multiverse of Marvel. Then we decide to do next episode, or well, I guess when I decide to do next episode. But until
Whenever you have
then,
the next suggestion.
yeah, whenever I decide to like, oh, we should do this. But until then, just stay subscribed and read some comics.